Good morning, class. This is Reader's Workshop, and I'm doing traditional literature. And before I do, I want you to focus on voice fluctuation. Change your voice with different punctuation marks. Also think about the characters in the story, how they fit in the story, and who they are. So, when you see a period, that means to stop. When you see a exclamation mark, that means you're yelling or you're excited. Happy birthday! If you see a question mark, you're asking a question. Your voice naturally goes up and you're waiting for an answer. If you see a comma within a sentence, that means stop, take a breath, count to 3, continue reading. If you see quotation marks, that means there's word between here that the character's saying. Change your voice to that character, make the reading interesting. Always think about the characters in your story, why they are there, who are they, and what type of people or things are they. So, this story you might have read or you might have seen a movie. It's called 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. The original story was written by Jules Verne, which was written in the late 1800s. Adapted, that means this author took the story and tweaked it, changed it a little bit, by Susan Lawrence. And illustrated, the pictures were by Daniel Powers. In 1866, Pierre Auroux, a scientist, was amazed by the newspaper story. Seamen reported a large object at the sea, which they could not identify. They didn't know what it was. This enormous thing, Auroux said to his trusted servant, Conseil, is described as a long spinal-shaped object that often appears to light up, almost like an electrical eel, like a light-up snake. Many more sightings of the objects were reported. After reading more reports, Auroux believed the object was something never seen before. As a scientist, Auroux knew quite a lot about sea. Newspaper reporters asked him for a scientific explanation of the strange sightings. Just because we have never seen anything like this doesn't mean it doesn't exist, Auroux explained. We have not seen all creatures that live in the depths of the sea. I'm convinced this object is a giant sea monster. The reporters laughed at that, and the people who read the paper laughed too. Then things got worse. The mysterious object attacked the ship. Then it attacked every ship it met. Shipping lines lost money because no one traveled by sea, and the idea of a sea monster no longer seemed laughable. Now they weren't laughing. They got a problem. Then one day, Cassell handed Auroux an official-looking letter. Dear Monsieur Auroux, if you will kindly join Abraham Lincoln on the expedition on the journey to find out if this mysterious object is indeed a giant sea monster, we would be most appreciative. We would be thankful. A cabin awaits you. A room for you waits. The ship sails tomorrow at 5 p.m. Very cordially yours, J.B. Hobson, Secretary of Marine. The next day, Auroux and Cassell boarded the Abraham Lincoln, where they met the ship's captain, Commander Farragut. I've sworn to rid the seas of this wicked creature, said Commander Farragut. Auroux pointed to the harpoons. These are like sharp blades that shoot out their spears. Auroux pointed to the harpoons on the deck and said, I hear Ned Land is aboard. They call him the Prince of Harpooners. That means he's real good at it. He'll take care of the monster. I certainly will, said a man behind them. He extended his hand and introduced himself as Ned Land. Any creature able to withstand the pressure far below the sea would have to be quite strong, Auroux said to Land. I would have to make of iron plates like an armored ship, Land said. Oh, here they are. And look, that pointy thing That's the harpoon that they would shoot out at the monster to kill him. The Abraham Lincoln sailed and spent several quiet months at sea. There were no signs of any monster. After a while, the crew grew restless. They got bored. "If a monster does not appear in 3 days," Commander Farragut said, "we'll head for home." The crew of the Abraham Lincoln scorned the seas for 3 more days. They mean traveled on the sea. It found nothing until that evening of the 3rd night. "On the port quarter," shouted Ned Land. "That's it." A blackish body emerged, came up above the waves. The Abraham Lincoln charged after the creature. Everyone cheered. Ned Land stood on deck, holding his harpoon, but the ship could not move fast enough to keep up with the creature. The cannon, the thing that shoots these big metal balls, was loaded, and a shot was fired. It fell several feet from the creature. Another shot was fired, and it hit the beast, but the creature did not seem to feel it. Then the thing disappeared under the waves. Late that night, a huge light appeared above 3 miles from the Abraham Lincoln. The Abraham Lincoln moved toward the light. Ned Land held his harpoon. His arm straightened and the harpoon flew. It made a clinking sound as it hit the creature, like metal hitting metal. The light went out and the creature charged at the ship. When the Abraham Lincoln was struck, Aaron was thrown overboard. He fell off the ship. Aaron began to sink. Arix began to sink, but something grabbed him and pulled him to the surface. "Hold on, sir," said Cassell. Arix coughed and held on to Cassell. "Help, help," Land called from a distance. Cassell and Arix swam toward him. Arix tired quickly. He fainted and his body landed on something solid. When he came to, Cassell and Ned Land were beside him. "We're on top of some sort of boat," said Land. The object made a loud grinding noise, and an iron plate moved. A man appeared, but quickly disappeared. Then more men with masked faces, covered faces, appeared. They dragged Arix, Cassell, and Land into a strange boat and threw them into the dark prison. Later, light came into the prison and a man came in. "You are aboard the Nautilus. I am the commander, Captain Nemo," said the man. "We were aboard the Abraham Lincoln," said Arix. "We thought it was a vessel of a huge sea monster. We meant you no harm." "That doesn't matter," said Nemo. "Since you now know about the Nautilus, you are my prisoners and you will always remain my prisoners." Oh my gosh, you're in trouble. Here they thought all along it was a monster and it was a ship in disguise. "You mean we will never see our families, friends, or our countries again?" asked Arix. "Never," said Nemo, "but you are free to move around the Nautilus as you like. If you try to escape, I will kill you. No one must know about me. It isn't you that I guard myself." Nemo turned and left, but later that night the prisoners ate dinner with him. "This food is delicious, Captain," said Arix, "but I'm afraid I'm not familiar with it." "I have given up the food of the land," said Nemo. "You mean all these foods come from the sea?" asked Arix. "Yes," said Nemo. "The sea supplies me with everything." After dinner, Nemo showed the prisoners around the Nautilus, and the men followed him toward the library. There were wide shelves full of bound books, and electric light flooded the passageway. "Read anything you like," said Nemo as he left them. "I never imagined electric lighting like this," said Land. "And to think it's all aboard a ship, that I can travel to the bottom of the sea." So it was like a submarine. But why would Nemo decide to live like this and give up everything on land? Asked Cassell. This ship is equipped with everything one could ever need, said Arax. It's as if Nemo is some sort of mission to live like this. The Nautilus traveled to places Arax had only read about, and the men were very surprised that Nemo allowed them to explore the remote islands that are not discovered very well, by themselves. Cassell, Land, and Arax used a small rowboat to make their ways to one of the islands. The men found breadfruit, mangoes, and pineapples. They even trapped some wood pigeons to roast. Wood pigeons are like doves. But by afternoon they had a feast. Just as they were finishing their meals, they heard noises. 20 natives, armed with bows, came out of the trees. The men jumped into the rowboat and rowed back to Nautilus, and the natives followed in canoes. "Captain," Arax yelled when they reached the Nautilus, "some natives spotted us on the island. They are quickly approaching." "Those savages can't possibly harm us," said Nemo, "and the Nautilus is indestructible. They can't destroy it." "They're going to come aboard, sir," Cassell said. "Let 'em try," said Nemo. One of the port's lids opened, and the faces of a few of the natives appeared. When the first put his hand on the ladder, he was struck by an invisible force. Oh, electricity hit him. He screamed and let go. The same thing happened to every native who tried to enter the Nautilus, and the ladder was charged with an electric cable. The natives received a surprising shock. So here they are. Neiman is that red-headed guy on this side. And on this side, on the top, where that little round circle is, the Native Americans, if they touched that ladder, they were going to get an electrical shock. Keep them out. After the natives finally left, the Nautilus approached some underwater caves. Arax worried that the vessel might not really be indestructible. He had heard stories about giant squids. "Are the stories about giant squids true?" asked Cassell. "Such creatures do exist," said Arax. "One has been seen here a few years ago." "Did it have 8 long tentacles?" asked Cassell. "Yes," Arax said. Cassell shuddered. He was scared. And pointed toward the porthole, the opening of the submarine. Arax looked and saw such a giant squid swimming toward them. It wrapped itself around the Nautilus. Its tentacles were wrapped around the blades of the vessel. Captain Nemo said, "We can't go anywhere except to the surface until we get them off." When the Nautilus reached the surface, Captain Nemo and the Land went out on deck. They had axes and harpoons to attack the monster, but the giant squid attacked them instead. It trapped Nemo with one of its giant tentacles. Land harpooned it until it let Nemo go. The squid's huge beak opened over Land's head. Nemo shoved his axe into the monster's mouth. Land moved and grabbed another harpoon. He stabbed it into the monster's eye, and finally the squid died. That's gross. The men had been Nemo's prisoners for over 7 months when the Nautilus neared the United States, and as they approached the coast of New York, another vessel came into view. It was a warship. "Prepare to sink it," Nemo called down from the deck. "War destroys lives, so war must be destroyed." "That explains the captain's mission," said Arax. "It seems that he was at war against anything related to war. It's vengeance." He wanted to get back at them. When the Abraham Lincoln made it back to the port, word must have spread that the giant sea monster is actually a submarine vessel, said Land. The men heard an explosion and rushed on deck. The warship was sinking. The Nautilus escaped to the dangerous coast of Norway. There the waters rushed with such speed that ships and even whales had been destroyed. "We need to escape before Nemo gets us killed," said Land. When the vessel surfaced, Cassell and Ned Land had a plan. They boarded the rowboat and set off. No one prevented them because no one would have expected them to go into such rough water in a rowboat. Surprisingly, they made it to shore with the help of the coastal fishermen. The three men never learned what happened to the Nautilus. Captain Nemo was never seen or heard from again. So, that's an interesting story about sea monsters and a guy capturing someone in his submarine, which was thought to be a monster. Now it's your time to read. Don't forget to fluctuate your voice when you see punctuation marks. And think about the characters in this story. Who are they? How are they affecting the story? If there's a problem, how was it solved? If you don't have a book to read or no one to read to, then print out one of the reading pages from the district website or class tag. And if you have to reread and reread again, that's okay, because practice makes perfect. So until next time, happy reading.